Hello and welcome back to the Consistory of the Coelc YouTube channel. I'm your host for this video, Reverend Jake Zabel of the St. John's Evangelical Lutheran Church located in Dalby, Queensland, Australia. In this video, we are finally wrapping up my series on the role of female laity in the church by looking at the topic of female ushers. So an usher in the church is generally someone that deals with a lot of the practical side of the church. They might show people to their seats. They might direct people when it's time for Holy Communion. And they might gather up the financial monetary collection during the offering section of the church service. And so the question is, are women forbidden from serving in the office of usher? Now, when we look at the Bible texts of 1 Corinthians 14 verses 33 to 36 and 1 Timothy chapter 2 verses 11 to 14, Paul teaches us that women are not to preach, teach, or exercise authority over men in the church. In addition to this, the Lutheran Church of Australia, in their own paper on the role of women in the church, says that women are not to exercise positions in the church that would be leadership, authoritative, or independent positions. And so the question would be asked, are women forbidden from being ushers? Well, ushers are not an authoritative position, they're not a teaching position, not a leadership position, and so there may not be an explicit condemnation of women doing this in the church. I would, however, discourage the practice of women doing this because it would still be an independent role detached from the congregation. Holy Scripture is clear that the role of women in the church is meant to be a position of learning. St. Paul in 1 Timothy chapter 2 verse 12 said that the role of the woman in the church is to learn in all quietness and submission. Therefore, the actual role given for women in the church is to sit and to learn. They are not to take on these other tasks in the church. And so the question would be, are there men who are capable of doing this position as an usher? And so the question would be, are there men who are capable of taking on this position of usher? And I would say that if there are men available, they should step up and do so and let the women take up their God-pleasing role of sitting and listening. Now, some people will say, well, what about deaconesses? We allow women to serve the church through works of charity and in positions like a deaconess, so why can't a woman be an usher? Well, my argument would be first and foremost that that is happening outside of the church, not part of the divine worship. Within the divine worship, women are told where they should be. See, in Scripture, there are female deaconesses, such as Phoebe. Also in this situation in the book of Timothy, where Paul talks about the role of widows, the historic interpretation of that text is that the role of widows is not some kind of list of widows receiving charity, but widows serving as deacons in the church. So women can serve as deaconesses in the church and do works of charity and works of mercy for the church. However, that is outside of the divine worship where women are permitted to do such things. Within the divine worship, women are called by God to sit and to learn. Therefore, they have a job to do in the church, and that job is to sit and to listen and to learn. Now, people may raise the question as to, what about female organists? That is a position detached from the congregation. That is serving in the church. And again, I would say, women are not forbidden from serving as ushers in the church. But I would discourage the practice because that's not what the woman is called to do. And I would apply the same rule to organists. Women are instructed by the Scriptures to sit and to learn in quietness and submission during the divine service. That is the role that they should take. If there are other roles that are needed for the service, such as musician or usher, these roles should first and foremost be filled by men who are called by God to serve and to provide and to protect women. Men should be the ones who step up first and take on these roles and allow the women to take their God-pleasing position and sitting and listening. Now, if there are no men available who are capable of being organists, then of course, let a woman take this role. Because as I said, in regards to female musicians and female ushers in the church, Scripture does not strictly forbid it. What I am saying is they should be discouraged from taking on these positions, and they should be encouraged to sit and to learn in quietness and submission. Instead, if these positions need to be filled, men should be encouraged to step up and to serve as leaders and providers and to fill these positions first. If there are no capable men who can serve in these positions, then by all means let the women serve in these positions. So, in regards to female organists or female musicians, if there's a man in the church who is capable of doing that position, then he should first and foremost take on that position. Only when there is no men available, then let the women serve. In regards to ushers, the same applies. If there are men who are capable to serve as ushers, then let them serve first, and only when there are no men capable of serving, then let the women serve. And I believe the argument for women organists is a lot stronger than women ushers, because not all men are trained and knowledgeable in playing the organ, whereas I believe any man would be capable of getting up and serving as an usher unless he has some kind of physical impediment that would prevent him from doing so. So when it comes to the topic of female ushers and female musicians in the church, these are not positions of word and sacrament, so they are not restricted to the clergy only, but can be performed by laity in the church. These positions are also not authoritative or leadership positions, and therefore they can be held by both men and women. However, because women have been instructed to sit and learn and men have been instructed to provide and care for women, as long as there are capable men within the congregation who can serve in these positions, then let the men serve first and only have the women serve when there are no longer any men who are capable of serving in said positions. So I hope that answers this question regarding the use of female ushers in the church. I've been your host, Reverend Jake Zabel. Goodbye and God bless.